All right, today we are honored to be blessed with the presence of Eddie Sanz,
Yes,
Jiu-Jitsu
sir.
master and black belt. Man, Eddie, so you run a Jiu-Jitsu gym. Um, you are in the process of building a church security company, which is probably unknown in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And you run this business with your family. It's a family-run business, kind of like what me and Joe do. Man, just thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about the gym.
Yeah. So we are a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school that has a lot of different programs, and it's we have an adult program like a lot of other schools. We have a kids program that starts with a bully defense system where kids are not just thrown into jiu-jitsu without any type of techniques. It starts with verbal de-escalation. And we have a women's program called Live Fearless. And church security company, it started by me just volunteering at our church. I was invited, so excited that they were already doing jiu-jitsu. They had their mats and got invited one day to come and said, "Man, do you do jiu-jitsu?" And I was like, "A little bit."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
said, "Can you come and work with us?" And so I was leading the defensive tactics program with that team, learning a lot from some people way better than me, with even after military and Dallas police, but just feeling like a white belt in shooting area with some of the people on that team. But that has turned into a business, just seeing the need to be able to bless churches that are not going to be able to have a black belt on staff or a world champion farms competitor. And so bringing those two worlds together and it all under the umbrella of a nonprofit, so we can raise money. And a lot of these churches that are really blessed with money to be able to bless these smaller churches where unfortunately you can see if you watch, if you study that area, it's not always so apparent on the media. You have to kind of search for it, but almost every Sunday, a lot of these churches are getting attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I can almost tell you every week of an event, of something occurring, a shooting, a stabbing, a robbery in the parking lot. So something needs to change in that space, and so that's what we're rising to that challenge.
Let's talk about the business side of it for just 1 second. Us being three entrepreneurs, you said something very important that I think a lot of inspiring entrepreneurs don't think about before they decide to start their business. What is the need?
Yes.
Not what they want to do or what they
Yeah.
feel they're capable of doing, but like answering the need. So earlier, before we started rolling, you talked about starting the Live Fearless, which is the women's self-defense class.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned the kid bullying program. You said, based on some experiences from your wife, hey, she realized that, hey, if I had this experience and these techniques, I could have defended myself.
Yes.
So you started that program. And then your son, you said he didn't like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So it sparked you to say, okay, well, if my son don't like it, how can I change? And then it kind of blew up the
Yeah.
program, right? So those were two needs.
Yes.
And then you're serving security at our church. You're like, bam, like there's this void, this lack of a system in place.
Yeah.
And you started that security business.
Yeah.
So just speak to the need of or the area of entrepreneurship where people want to do something, but they're not addressing the need, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most beautiful way to find purpose in business is do already what you're passionate about, and I see the opposite so much of just people finding like, man, this computer AI stuff, I don't really know anything about it, I don't really like it,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna learn it because I've seen people make a lot of money.
Wow.
Man, to me, getting up in the morning, and even if I'm at my gym till 11 o'clock at night, sometimes I'm back there at 5:45. But I am so passionate. I love seeing people's lives transformed, and just that moment, like I was mentioning, where you finally tap somebody. It's mind blowing what it does. You get to see that spark in people. They're like, and I'll come by and just kind of give him a little touch of like, you get it now. He's like, yeah, man. So, that to me, getting up to going to something that's not a chore, where you're actually already were passionate about it. And I think that's the big key is my advice always to people starting businesses is find what you're already good at, what you're already passionate about, and then find where there's a need in that world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what each one of those, like you said, I knew my son, we were doing jujitsu at home since he could walk, and he loved it. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was playful. Yeah. And then unfortunately I had allowed some just delegating the wrong people, and some coaching people came in that were trying to make it like some type of Navy SEAL program for kids. And so like my kid, like, wait, this is my business. Okay, let's stop. We're going to change all this. Wow. So you see the need, and even, from the beginning, or even be able to, within your business, to shift when you see like a need arise.
Yes.
Do you see a connection with jujitsu and entrepreneurship? Because I feel like they're almost intertwined the way you're explaining it.
Yeah, definitely. And I've heard it, from other people, so I can't say it's my own ideas, but I've seen the connections so much with the walk that a person, when they decide, or they even feel like they're drawn to jiu-jitsu and they get the bug for it. I have a couple of guys that just started on our security team, and it started with once a week and then twice. Then his wife's like, is he going to do this every day? And now it's 3. Yeah. But you're just kind of like, you just get that urge of, and I see it like in the entrepreneur world as well, is just like everything. If you want to reach mastery, it's going to take time and effort. Yeah. And that's what it is in jiu-jitsu. And people call it mastery. Like in our martial art, when you reach black belt, we refer to the black belts as professors. Okay. When you reach the red black level, which I will reach at about 72. When I'm 72, I did the math. Yeah. Wow. So when I'm 72, I will reach that level, and you'll be referred to as a master. Or some other martial arts, though, they refer to them as masters a little earlier. But to me, that word is always misused because there really is no mastery of this martial art. It just is ever evolving. Okay. There's some martial arts where it's become so dogmatic, where it's kind of like, hey, these are all the techniques. There's no more. Just practice them better. With us, it is, especially since we have technology and YouTube and now AI, figuring out new techniques. And I could spend I used to spend allotted like 2 hours a day, and now I've had to up that a little bit, studying just competition and new things that usually young people are coming up with that I've never seen.
Because you're not
in
just
29
teaching,
years.
You're actually performing, right?
And I compete as well.
Yeah,
my own, against people my age, black belts. But that element of like trying to reach mastery in your entrepreneurial world as well, that you still have to have the striving, the desire to continue to better yourself in your field, which makes your business better. So I think those two, they really do. They reflect, jiu-jitsu reflects life, reflects entrepreneur world.
It says you never arrive, essentially, because we talk about humility, we talk about constantly being teachable and coachable, and this is the environment we want to cultivate in our household, in our work environment. There was a statement that I heard the other day, and I was like, oof, this kind of was like a gut punch. It was actually from Myron Golden. He said, the old Myron Golden. He says this: becoming loyal to the truth more than our own beliefs. Becoming loyal to the truth more than our own beliefs. And I think what you hit on there, Eddie, is the truth that there's no such thing as self-control mastery, that you'll never master it. It's ever evolving, if you will. Yeah. So with that, like, would you call yourself an achiever, Eddie? Because I know some achievers will kind of want to achieve something and kind of leave it at that. You know what I mean? But like, what's your mind state? Like, what does that look like for you? Thinking like, okay, at 72, I'm going to be a red belt. What else after that? You know, it just keeps going, keeps progressing.
Oh yeah, no, actually, it'll be red black.
Red,
Yeah,
black.
then red white, then red. Oh my God. So
Okay.
I may
So that's
be
more.
in my 90s if and I believe I'll live that long. That's when I would receive my red belt. So that's
Okay.
actually the 10th level. Yeah.
Holy
So
smokes.
what are the checkpoints in between? Right? Is it technique that you're learning? Or
No,
just
after you
hours
achieve
of
your black
performance?
belt, it's all years.
Just years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty much like I'm about to get a third stripe in November for my black belt. So I'll be a third degree black belt. No. It's just a celebration at that point. And I don't even test myself after a person reaches purple, because it is really more about time
Okay.
at that point. You'll see, and like going back to kind of touches on that question, if I'm an achiever, there's all kinds of, when you hear black belt, that could mean a lot of things. It's dependent on the person. I have a lot of great friends that once they got there, they were just kind of like,
It chilled
okay,
out.
yeah, I was like, are you going to compete? No. I mean, I turned 51 in February, and I'm still going to our big tournament in Vegas in August. There'll be 7,000 competitors take over the whole convention center, and about 40 people in my age group, all black belts, usually school owners, and my desire is always, that's why I was drawn to jiu-jitsu, because I knew I was never going to reach some pinnacle. You get to red belt, I guess you're kind of done with the belt, but even there you could still keep learning if you so desire. So that's the thing, is to try to cultivate that. And I try to do that in my students with, the kids that I'm mentoring, is whatever you choose to do, whether it's, firearms, that world, I do a lot of firearms training, moving and shooting, and these competitions, same thing. That's even easier on the body. And so I'll see a lot of these competitors in their 70s that are like, wow, these guys can move.
Yeah.
But they're same thing. You cannot ever let yourself get to a place where you're like, I got this. You have to keep challenging yourself.
Don't become complacent.
Yeah.
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 So when it comes to competing, are you competing, like what is the age range? 45 to 55, 50 to 60? Like, because I mean, what does it look like you at 51 competing with someone that's 32? Is that going to be fair?
Yeah, you can enter any age group lower than your group, but you'll start noticing, not so much in the gym, but at that level, you'll notice age
Plays a factor.
Yeah, very, very much. I think a lot of it is so the biggest competition is in the adult range, where my nephew has competed and done really well. That's from pretty much 18 to 30, 20 or 29. When you turn 30, a lot of people transition to the master. We call them the master level. I love that word. They used to call it seniors. And you're like, man,
might as well just call it
it sounds
old.
way better, because you get a medal. Like I've gotten one
Senior.
big medal, and it looks pretty cool. It says master. Like, you're a master? Like, that just means you're over 30. But pretty much 30 to 35 is master one. Or I'm sorry, 30 to 34, 35 to 39 master two, 40 to 45 master three, and it just kind of keeps going up to that. But it's inspiring to see like these levels of like 70-year-old men, and they'll have beautiful stories like, man, this guy just got knee replacement. This dude just got a new heart, and he's out there, and you'll just hear these great stories. They'll get a standing ovation from people, and
they've been doing it for years.
oh yeah. And that's the thing, like with my group, the people that are still competing are very dangerous. Because I mean, it's not. I'll sometimes, you'll line up as you're about to walk out together to the ref, And I'll look over, I'm like, that can't be my competitor. That guy looks like he's like 30. And sure enough, he'll go out there like,
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's some men that just really have aged well. And they, some guys, you know, I've been a black belt for about 9 years. There's some people I compete against that have been a black belt since before I even knew what jiu-jitsu was in Brazil. And so then it's just a matter of have they stayed in the new game. So it's exciting. It especially this one. We take a big group to Vegas. It's called Jiu-Jitsu Con, kind of like Comic-Con.
Okay.
And there'll be a tournament for every age group. Like eventually my son will go and compete there, but you know, just a group of 30-year-olds. It's 30-year-olds over the level of blue belt. There's about almost 7,000 people competing. Wow. It's like 29 mats going on over like a 5-day period. It's beautiful. And these are people that are putting it out there. I mean, fighting 100%. A lot of people getting choked out, injuries. You see like the injury table, like you don't want to get tapped. You don't want to tap in front of your wife or kids. And it's just like,
but you don't want to find yourself in that corner.
Yeah.
The injury corner.
So I know with becoming a black belt, it's definitely the road least traveled.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of motivators, but also there's a lot of, let's say, resistance too. Because as you're going through the resistance training and all it's not only spiritually draining, but also mentally draining, physically draining. So I know you've had some interesting environments that you've probably been in before that have probably tried to stop you from becoming a black belt or try to talk you out of it. That could be your family, could have been your friends. Like, talk us through your story in that. Like, what were some of the challenges you faced as becoming a black belt?
Yeah. Well, you know, starting out, I've gone through this evolution of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming to the United States. You know, when it came to the United States, not to disparage anybody, but, you know, there's a lot of people with a language barrier. You know, they mostly, you know, just spoke Portuguese, learning English, trying to teach Americans a different culture. It's a very different environment. So I've seen it evolve from something that was a little disorganized in 95 to now we have our own, you know, streaming site. There's instructionals. So along that journey, I lost a lot of great friends because it didn't have a lot of systems. And that's the thing that I've really tried to incorporate to keep people is our culture loves to walk into an organized environment. And if it's just when you walk in, you see chaos, you know, unless you're, I'm a little out there sometimes, so I don't mind it as much, but I would just bring friends and it'd be like, you want me to do what? I'm just going to watch, man. This is crazy. That dude's bleeding over there. Like, so I've created like something that's challenging, but still doable and give you a path also. Like that was the thing I also saw in that journey was you never knew when the next belt was. I mean, you could just be like, I think I was at the purple belt level for maybe 9 years. And, you know, jumping around different gyms and you just never know, like, be like, you can't really even, it was frowned to ask too, like really frowned upon. You can't go and say, hey, is there maybe, I know you got a belt test coming up. Nope. You know, like, so I, you know, and there's a couple of schools now, but we have an app that tracks every time you're on the mat. And so you know exactly at 160 classes, you're eligible for blue belt under our system. And a lot of people will, you know, jump on, if I threw that out there on social media, they'll comment like, that's like you're got like McDonald's or something. Like, I don't know. That's 3 times a week of like really challenging. It's going to take you a year or 2 times a week will take you, you know, a year and a half. But to me, it's fair because I'll see people at other schools, they may train once a month. Another guy trains every day. Those 2 people should not be graded the same. Under our system, it's fair. If you're there every day, you're going to get through it a little quicker. And you'll see it by the way we set up our programs that an hour or an hour and a half, you're going to leave with something new. And so those, things that I didn't have going through that took me so much longer to get my black belt, that it took me about 20 years to finally get my black belt with injuries as well. I'd have to take like a lot of knee injuries. I hurt my back really bad. And I pretty much almost was out for a year and didn't know I was going to come back. So things like that were challenges, and you just so wanted to get back.
So that's a question I have for you. Have you ever sustained an injury that made you doubt coming back?
Absolutely.
And what was it?
Well, I had kind of three. I had a knee injury, a shoulder, a torn rotator, and this is real good for my business, right? Putting this out there.
It happens.
I ain't gonna go do that. And my back, I had a stress fracture between L5 and S1. The facet joints, they were cracked on both sides. So it kind of never felt it like, oh, it was that. It happened in the midst of either getting thrown or falling. But I sustained that and went through a tremendous amount of pain. And that one, all the other ones, even my shoulder, I would just be like, I'm just not going to use that arm. And I kept training.
Wow.
Yeah. And I broke this hand one time when I was the beginning of my opening my school, and I really couldn't take any time off. I didn't have money to pay anybody, so I just didn't use my left hand. I got really good, and so it's interesting. Like a lot of techniques people do what's called like lasso and spider with their left hand.
Okay.
I do it with my right. And I really trick people because I'm so good with my right hand. But, that I can always train through broken, like metacarpals, broken toes, things like that. But the back, just can't do it. Even a rib injury, I had a cracked rib that I ended up just kind of working through. But the back was, sciatica that where I couldn't even move my right leg. I was like, wow, this is serious. I need to go see a doctor.
So how long were you a cop? Like, were you on the beat, on the street?
Yeah. Almost 10 years with Dallas. Worked Southwest Patrol, some drug task force.
Was it in the 90s or the 2000s?
90s.
Okay, yeah. So this was when there was batons and right, like street fights. Remember Cops, the TV show Cops? Like real.
I came
Cops
on
was like the first
right
reality show.
Yeah. So Cops used to be, that show was there, and there's still, you might be able to find it. It was in Dallas. They were filming in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And
I remember watching it in Detroit when I was a kid. God. It was awesome. It was good, man. It was really good.
It was, and they ended up. I think it was either the city council or the city manager ended up finally saying, "Man, this is not looking good for our city." They ended up, that's why you see them. They went to like a lot of smaller cities where it'd be a sheriff like, I don't care. But yeah, during the 90s, very different time. I loved these police officers I work with now. They love to hear stories because now they wear body cams. They've got it's almost frowned upon to make contact with somebody. We didn't have body cams. There were no cell phone cameras. If you were being recorded, it was you'd see a guy with a big camera on his shoulder. Yeah. And it's just a rougher time. That's why that element of like defensive tactics, self-defense, I was able to see what really, really worked.
And that's why I asked the question, how much of your skill set, jiu-jitsu, martial arts, and grappling, how much of that did you use in the field?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I was pretty much about a blue belt. I think finally had just got my purple belt when I left the department. And so just those skills, which like under our system is 160 classes, I felt like, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but almost like a superpower on the streets, because if you think about it, it's not so much like, man, he's an awesome boxer.
Yeah.
You don't see, I mean, if you see an officer boxing somebody, like something went really bad. It's usually like, and it's neat now you have all these body cams so you can really study it, but it's usually a guy that is already about to get his handcuffs and the fight's on. And so it's usually a grappling situation. So the more you know about putting a person on their back, on their stomach, man, it was, so and this is kind of crazy. We were allowed to use what was called lateral vascular neck restraint. I remember seeing that in the academy. I was like, you're kidding me. What? And that's a rear naked choke. That's what I've been doing since 95, So you could choke people out unconscious. And to me, that was the perfect weapon to subdue even a person on, the crazy stories of people like on these hallucinogens and where they can just take pain and not feel anything. I had several of those where you just jumped on their back and put them to sleep, and they wake up with their handcuffs, not injured. And I've been in another one where literally that guy went to hospital with multiple broken bones in his face and from officers just trying to get him in handcuffs.
Wow.
So I see the need for that then, and how just a person as a blue belt could do that. Now I have even, thousands of more options that I can now teach people.
As opposed to choking.
And I didn't have anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And still, that's there, but now it's officers have to have the element of deadly force to be able to use that.